usually I try and pull a quote, and usually it's something to kind of latch onto midway through the conversation. I want to lead with this quote that I found, and you may have even heard of it in your profession. So it's from Maya Angelou, and she says, "People will never forget how you made them feel."
Ah, wonderful quote. Yes, I have heard that many a time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have this ability to show up in command a room and to be able to help people go through probably one of the most joyful moments of their lives. So I would love to break down some elements of that and talk about that. And so let's get started with, you got started in 2018?
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell me a bit about what you do.
I have the great honor of marrying people as a wedding officiant, and started in 2018. And it was, in the beginning, we'll call it officiant school. They hand you a script and say, here you go out there, do good things, marry people, make them feel wonderful, but insert the names, and you'll use the same script week after week. And after a little while, I remember saying to my wife, Lisa, I want to make this more personal. Like Maya Angelou, people forget what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. Mm. And she said, then add some of your own words. Like, what do you have to say? Well, technically, only these parts, but what aspect should I change? And she's like, you'll know, just start doing it. And I started modifying my intro a little bit. And then the main body of my ceremony, based on, like you said, it's a happiest day for most people. They're so excited to be getting married. But the part I wasn't covering was probably, how did we get here? How did you two meet? And so I'd ask them some questions, build a little story. I've been working on polishing that, and here I am today.
I love that because, like, your job title, or like how you've been referred to on your site, is professional love story crafter.
Yes.
And as someone who loves stories, and like stories are the kind of an art form that you and I both know it takes time to perfect and to get good at. And tell me more about the reason behind, because like obviously, was it just because you're bored that you changed up the words, or is it that you felt it was lacking?
I wouldn't say bored. I would say that I'm standing there, and quite often in elopements, the smaller ones, and I'm doing my thing. I'm seeing the look between a couple about to get married. And I knew that what I was reading, given in officiant school, was great. It was good stuff, but it's something they've all heard before. We've all heard before, whether in the movies or at a wedding you've been to. And right before the wedding ceremony started, I started usually chatting with the groom, because he and I are there waiting for the bride to arrive, and ask him a few questions. And he'd say, oh, like, we met at this time. And I'm like, oh, that's lovely. Like, how did you feel? Like, how did you know? How did you ask her out? Where was that first date? And they'd tell me a little story, and I'd start ad-libbing into the ceremony, just a sentence or two at the beginning, and building upon it as I did more and more, and gauging the reactions from not only my couple, but the guests around me as I got more comfortable knowing, what do I have to do? What do I have to say? It's like anything. When you're new, you're not sure, am I doing this right? Am I feeling imposter syndrome because I don't know if I'm truly doing this correctly? Are my words resonating? Is my presence being felt that I'm thrilled to be here? I can't believe that I get to stand here with you two during this wonderful event. And I just kept building upon that by asking questions.
Were you always a storyteller?
I wouldn't think so. I think in my head, I could have stories in my head, could be easily created when I sat and thought about it. Put on the spot, maybe not as much. But now, looking back, it's like, oh, yeah, I would watch something happen, a play or a movie, and think, oh, that's pretty interesting. How could I have done this? If it were me standing up there doing this job, how would I do it a little bit differently? What would make a stronger connection?
So the stronger connection is built from having an understanding of the past and having a standing, like how it all meshes together, right? So what does it take to become someone or what do you need to do to hold the room, and how to keep people engaged enough to get through a ceremony or any kind of situation? What's your take on that?
Great question. Luckily, my wife is a public school teacher, so she had great advice on when you're starting, how to take control of a room. Let's say you've got a nervous couple standing in front of you, and they're ready to get married. You've got people, guests rustling. Maybe they haven't seen one another for quite some time. You ask everyone to take their seats, and in the way you address the crowd and speak before everything begins, usually lets them know that this is be a little bit different than most ceremonies in your confidence in the way you speak. I've been so lucky to see so many officiants before I became one do ceremonies. And I always admired how they spoke, and they're standing up there in front of, whether it's 5 people or a couple hundred, of wow, they're doing this and they don't seem to be nervous. Their hands aren't shaking. They're like, good for them. So I always thought that was impressive. And then when Lisa said, when it's like a classroom on first day of school, you don't have to come in firm and people are sitting upright. No one smile, no one have fun. This is all in business. But just taking command of a room. Now I would say it's second nature. And when I know we're all ready to go, the photographer's set, the venue is like, we are ready. The music is ready to begin, and the couple are ready to get married. It's just time to do what I do, I guess.
I love that. You use humor in such a beautiful manner. How do you use humor and not step on the big emotions that are there?
Another great question.
Sorry.
I know that because it's a ceremony, I need it to be proper and professional, but not too cheesy of a humor.
Yep.
And I never say anything that would be off color or inappropriate, because it is a special day. And there's a wide range of ages. There could be children in their early teens, 20-somethings, grandmothers, grandparents that would hear me say something and would do a double take of, what did he just say? So every ceremony I do, I am always very careful in what I'm about to say. Something last minute where I'm talking with the guest or one of the members of the couple getting married. If I pick something up, I like to ad lib and drop that in a lot. It's a lot of fun, but I always run it through the filter of looking back on that. If this was captured on video, would this be why did I say that moment? So I have a little filter in my head of, let's be careful with this.
That's smart, because you have the pacing too, right? So like you sit there and you're like, if I do this, I don't want to take away from, the moment, but I do want to kind of flow the back and forth of the conversation, because you're kind of facilitating a conversation there, but out loud, and making sure that you are likable enough that people kind of see you, but then can kind of focus on the couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of accurate. And
100%.
Yeah.
It's an honor. I love marrying people, but I also let them know when couples reach out that it isn't, hey, hire me, I'm the best. That's not what it's about at all. It is the wanting them to be comfortable with me, knowing that, hey, whoever you choose to stand there to marry you, it is a bit of a connection. And I like knowing more about them than less about them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know simply the basic details. What time, where, your names, great. Yep. I'm going to copy and paste that in. I'm going to do this, you do that, read your own vows. I'd much rather have a bit of knowledge. Like when they have a friend who steps in and says, I'm going to marry them because I know them really well. The friend facilitates really, really in a great way. And I try to leave every ceremony so that the guests look at each other afterwards and go, that was fabulous. And they'll ask the couple, how do you know Craig? He's like a friend. Is he an uncle? We've never met him. Where did he come from? All that brought forward in the ceremony of the way I'm talking to them and the way I'm looking at them, projecting love and excitement for them of like, this is a big moment. Like if it was your wedding, Ash, I'd be like, Ash, this is a big moment for you. I'm so excited. Let's get you two married. And the little aspects during the ceremony.
Yeah. Where does that, because you have this energy that you bring forth? Like, have you got a source of energy that you're secretly hiding away? Like, where's that come from? Like, was there a part of you that just fell in love with weddings, or is it a case of you just love people? Like, tell me about that.
Interesting. Source of energy. I do love people, love being part of weddings. It's interesting. In my earlier life, two different short stories for you.
Go for it.
Very short stories. I got into martial arts locally when I was very young, got through to my black belt when I was also in my teens. And that taught me, my instructors were a lovely husband and wife, the Leonards. And they are still like mom and dad to me, fantastic people. But they taught me young, if you're going to do something, you do it really well. You treat people with respect, and the only opponent is yourself. So you're going to try and be, through their training, the best person you can be. As I got older, I also got into music as a disc jockey back in the days of cassette when CDs was just beginning. And I did many high school dances and weddings. And the weddings, I was often asked to perform the ceremony music for the couples getting married. Back then, in the early days, I just wanted to make sure my cues were perfect and for every aspect of the walking down, the signing, the recessional often. In the last few years of doing that, and I did well over 1,000 events as a disc jockey, I was lucky enough to witness hundreds of ceremonies and hundreds of different officiants. And they're all lovely, amazing people. I give them full credit for standing in front of large groups, small groups, and speaking publicly. And watching how they did their craft. And I thought when it's, started thinking, I'd like to do what they're doing and become an officiant. And when I did, it was that bringing that love and joy for that moment, because I would watch these people do their ceremonies and you could feel the love radiating out of them because they genuinely love what they were doing. Yeah. And I had a few conversations with them before I decided to become one. And they're like, Craig, if you love people and you want to do that, you want to stand in front of people and do this, absolutely. But where is it coming from? What's the source? You just, I want some spending money, let's say. It's that, do you really want to help make their day the best it can be? I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. So having that martial arts background with be the best you can be, trying to be the best I could when in the music business, especially at weddings, because it was, such a big day in someone's life. And now doing wedding ceremonies, it's love for people, 100%.
Yeah. And you must have, how many weddings have you officiated?
Over 800.
How do you coach them as you're kind of the bride and groom? Do you coach them on how to stand up? Because a lot of people, the biggest fear is standing in front of people and talking. And now, not only are you talking in front of people, but you're also spotlighted, dressed up in a way that often you're not dressed up like, and then you're being commanded to kind of like become part of this kind of show. So, do you kind of coach them through on how to communicate correctly, or?
I do the exact opposite, actually.
Okay.
In the early days, I would meet quite a lot with a couple, maybe do a rehearsal. Nowadays, I tell them before they choose me I do things a little differently in that most of our communication is often an in-person meeting, make sure there's a chemistry check that they're comfortable with me standing there marrying them. But then what I found after doing this many ceremonies is if I run them through a rehearsal and say, Ash, you're going to stand here. And what's your wife's name, Ash?
Trisha.
Yeah. Beautiful name. Trisha, you would stand here, you're going to turn, you're going to pass your bouquet, hold hands with Ash. I'm going to guide you through, then this happens, then this happens. Then on wedding day, I would look at my couple and I could see, it's like Ash is thinking 2 steps ahead right now of, wait, is this the part where we do the rings? And should I look over here? And so I tell them, I'm not going to take you through rehearsal because the best moments in life are completely unscripted, letting it happen as it should. Like you can't practice your first dance.
No.
It's going to be totally different on wedding day because like you said, you're dressed in clothes that you don't usually wear. You're surrounded by all eyes on you. Even practicing the first kiss and coming up the aisle for your photographer. They will capture that without rehearsal. So I let them know that I prefer not to have any rehearsal. Every once in a while, I'll get a couple that they'll say, we are so stressed out about this. We think our heads are going to explode. And I'll tell them, it's okay. Guess what? We're going to meet in person a week or so before the wedding. I'm going to give you a mini guide of what to expect. But trust me, you're going to be perfect. Just turn, hold hands. Let me take the spotlight. It's not about me. It's all about you. But I'm going to shine that spotlight on you with my words, where all you have to do is hold hands.
Sounds like to me you're coaching vulnerability.
Yeah. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like open up and this is a moment. This is a raw moment. And that's okay. That's what people are here for. Right? They're not here for like this show, and they're here to see, and I find, especially because I've photographed a fair amount of weddings, you can see it. And it's usually the groom that is freaking out and is like the panic, like in the front, like, oh my God, what am I doing here? There's everyone looking here. And they have to stand there for a prolonged period of time before the bride arrives. And so often there's that moment where they're like stuck in their own head, right? And I love the fact that you're pushing the vulnerability. Like, it's okay to be like scared. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be that way. That's part of this project, or like this part of this process.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's how to be human. Like, you're almost like coaching people or just guiding people through the human experience.
And part of the magic is watching it unfold.
Yeah.
Naturally, organically, as it should be.
Is there a simple framework to writing something heartfelt that you find that you use to make this happen? For the stories, yeah.
I like to keep it ultra easy. Like, most people's communication with me is, let's say, a half-hour in-person meeting. Then I send them easy homework. I know they have a million things with life and work and planning for a wedding. And I'll ask them some simple questions. Like, may I ask you a few questions? Like, how did you and your wife's name again?
Trisha.
Trisha. I love Trisha. How did you and Trisha meet?
So we actually met while we were teaching. So when I first moved to Canada, I needed a job. And so I grew up in England and then moved to France and then came over here. And so one of my friends was like, hey, I've got a friend of mine. He's trying to find a French teacher. And like, I have zero, like, I'm talking 21-year-old version of me. So I've got long hair down here. I was a surfer, skateboarder. And like, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll teach kids. Right? Because I'm like, oh, that sounds great. And so it was literally that. And the first time Trish like met me, she looked at me and like, that's the poor sap that gets my class. Because it was in Madoc, grade 8 French in Madoc. Probably the toughest French class in the area because none of those kids wanted to learn. And that was how we got started. It's like we met while working together.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then who asked who out for the first? Do you remember who asked?
So I asked her out, and then we went to the movies and something classic and boring. So
you don't remember which movie it was?
We had this discussion the other day, and we still don't know. I think it was like The Lady in the Lake or something like this. It was like a pseudo horror, thriller kind of thing. It was not a great movie.
Yeah.
Not that I was paying attention to it. I just
of course.
So
mesmerized by the lovely lady beside you. Yeah. Oh, I love it. And then proposal. Were you able to to pull off the perfect proposal, or did Trisha have a inkling that women's intuition kicked in and she's like, you're acting odd, Ash, what's going on?
I used a bait and switch because I know people really well. And I knew I wanted to surprise her. And so she had this favorite place in her hometown. So we went there, and she really loved cats, and she was talking about getting a kitten. And so I bought a kitten up, managed to hide it all the way up to the point where we get into the woods, and then she could hear it meow. And then when I handed it to her, I had the ring on the collar.
That's an original. I've never heard that in a proposal story.
But the problem is, when you do this, pro tips, they get very, very distracted by the cat. So the cat was the thing. And then she realized afterwards that there was a ring attached to the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And see, that's a fabulous story. So kudos to you. And hats off. A kitten cat proposal.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of weird.
Like, she had no chance of saying no in the least at all. And that's usually all the details that I need from a couple of like, this love story begins in a school. Fresh-faced teacher, meets a fresh-faced Ash. He's got long hair. He's a surfer guy, skateboarder guy. And you just kind of build the story from there. Nothing I ever say, though, is meant to be said inappropriately. Everything is always about the hook, the opening lines when you're standing there, because you're super excited, you're nervous, you're holding on to this person that you love and you care about. You're about to get married. The last thing you need to know, to hear is some officiant saying something odd, and you're like, "What did he just say?" So I like to get the audiences with the hook off the start, but in a nice way, like this love story begins, yours in school, and then lead it with the first date.
Yeah.
Typical. Guys usually choose a scary movie because, it's a scary movie, you might lean in.
Yep.
And then the cat. I love the cat because the proposal is usually how I wrap up a story. It's about 3-4 minutes. And that is an epic proposal story. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cat was definitely it's an interesting thing because when you're trying to transport a cat in a car, it's really hard to keep him quiet.
Oh, yes.
And I was just so lucky that the cat didn't make a noise. At one point she thought she heard the cat, but she has a cat.
Mm-hmm.
So she thought I just brought her cat back to say her, because I surprised her hometown, and basically it was just it was just a way of kind of like, getting her to not think it was the actual, like, the kitten. No, she just thought it was like her cat, which is kind of funny. So
yeah,
I
love it.
Yeah, I want to switch into a bit more of performance and how to perform without, because everyone has to learn how to perform. Like when you first got started, you probably were like, how do I do this? Like, how do you get started in the performance arts, and how do you progress without overdoing it, without becoming too like crazy? Like we see actors where they have like these huge hands and they're like super loud, and how do people hold the room? Like we're talking not necessarily in a wedding, but we're talking like could be a boardroom, or it could be just like a conversation and they want to just tell a story. How can people start to learn the art of storytelling in 1-to-1 or 1 to thousands?
Oh, that's another great question. I did what most people do, of watching speakers that I would like to emulate and kind of observe them and see, what is it about this person, the way they speak, whether it's, do they drop their voice a little bit instead of speaking nasally or rapid fire? And I did have to practice to slow my speech down when it becomes wedding time, it's not a race to get through this. This is a wonderful moment. And the biggest thing I learned was the pause. You say something and then you pause. Let it have time to sink in for all the guests and the couple. And that's one of the biggest things I learned, was just embracing that of, you don't have to be louder. You don't have to flail your arms around or stalk back and forth when you're speaking, but just speaking directly, calmly, very smooth, and pausing after something you've said that you want to land.
I like that because I use pauses in a multitude of different ways. One of the ways I do it for an interview is I'll often put a big pause in, eliciting a response. And the one thing that I struggle with is the actual slowing of the cadence. And I have to like actively think about it and say, slow the cadence, tell the story the way you want to tell it. Don't rush through it, right? Like we talked about kids wanting to rush through stuff. Like impatience is in my genes, I swear. And it's like, I want to get this idea. I don't want to talk about this idea. So how do you train yourself into having that slowdown? Because often, I'm ADHD, so I often try to hold on to those thoughts while I have them. And I think if I slow down too much, my thoughts will go to the next one and I'll be stuck not having said that. And so I often will say something quickly because I've got to get this out there now before I forget it.
That's a very common thing. I have the exact same thought of, something flashes in my mind. I should say this now. I need to add this in here. And if I do pause, I'm going to forget it. Sometimes it will come back and I'll be able to add it in when needed. But often, if it drifts by, it wasn't part of the script, let's say, it's still okay. No, I like that, Ash. Yeah.
As I listen to you speak, you have a cadence that is part of the captivation that you have. And that's purely musical, I will say, because you know music and you know how to break up those like flat lines. You'll break it up with pauses, you'll break it up with high, with low. And I noticed that you kind of, your voice is almost an instrument in how you play your conversation.
Oh, thank you. It's all in practice. It's funny you mentioned that about practicing. In the early days, I remember practicing with Alex and Courtney of, okay, you two, please stand there, hold hands. I need to practice what I'm supposed to do, the different aspects of a ceremony. There's 7 aspects. And I would practice through with them, and they were good sports. They would let me do this. Then they'd be like, all right, Craig, we're done. Now what do I do? All right, I'm going to grab the cats. All right, you two, I'm speaking to you. But I would often practice, and I still do this to this day, of let's say I have a ceremony coming up on Saturday, and I've written a couple story. I've got their love abouts, 2 or 3, 4 things they love about one another right after the story. They're going to read their vows, their rings, and then my finish, the finale. I will read that story out loud as if I'm doing it in front of, I picture in my mind, 200 people watching me. There's cameras, there's videographers, the couple are right there. And I'll run through that story with my book that I use, looking down, looking up, listening and waiting for, that didn't sound right. I think I need to change that sentence. I need to pause at this point. And not because I'm looking for, oh, this is all about me. I need to wait to see if, does this get a laugh? Does this get a smile? Does this, pull a tear out of the front row? Because, parents, family listening. But it's knowing where the most emotional aspects are to let it sink in. And I do that at least 10 times because I'm a bit of a perfectionist I will have another wedding in a day or 2 a week. It doesn't matter. At that moment when I'm standing there, nothing else matters except for this couple, their day. I want perfection for them in my eyes, that I did my absolute best for them for their day. And part of that is my voice, inflection, tone, cadence, rhythm, and also having read through it so many times, I almost have their story memorized. So I'm not looking down, maybe lose my place if something happens. And that's, for me, part of the fun of doing the repetitions of, I'm going to do this again. And I never do it straight voice, flat, just reading, just to read it. I always do it as if it is happening.
Interesting. Because you wrote a book, correct?
I did.
What's the book called?
First Kiss to I Do.
First Kiss to I Do. And it's basically helping people. Is that correct? Like, walk me through like the premise of the book.
Well, I have 2 books. The one is I did a How to Officiate a Wedding for those, for family members or friends who want to step in and have no idea where to start, what to say. So it's a simple little, very short guidebook. First Kiss to I Do is a book that's 26 love stories, exactly as I told them on wedding day. And the very first story is my daughter, Rachel, and Riley, who got married in our backyard. Hers, I expanded a little bit to more like a story like length, but basically it's pretty much word for word what I said on wedding day, the story I wrote, by asking them 3 simple questions. How'd you meet? Tell me about your first date and the proposal. And that book I wrote not really for other officiants. It was literally as a thank you to Prince Edward County, who's been so good to me, all the venues. But every single copy that sells, I'm taking basically the entire gross sales and donating it to the Loyalist Humane Society. Annie Moffat in the county, they have, because we love cats, Courtney and Alex have 3 cats. Rachel and Riley, they've got 2 little cats. Lisa and I, we have 3 cats. I can't tell you the number of weddings where we've had either a dog as the ring bearer. I've had alpacas as a ring bearer, and cats. I actually have a wedding coming up in May, an elopement, and the couple have a cat that they take around with them quite a bit. And this little cat, Mogwai, after the gremlin, I believe, is going to be in a little cat carrier. And he's going to be with the bride during the ceremony. They're like, are you okay with that? And I'm like, yes, 100%. But every donation, every sale of that book is going to the animal shelter. So it's more like a kind of a passion project and something fun that I thought, if I did this, and even if it sells 1 copy or 1,000 copies, I don't care. Every cent goes to Annie and helping out with the wonderful things she does. But it's also a really good way moving forward that if I do another one or a third one, it's only for charity. I have to up my game with my writing style and my reading and performing it style. So it basically became and this is a long answer to a short question. Sorry, Ash.
No, you're good.
It just became how can I put myself on the spot to be better with my stories? Because maybe you weren't at the ceremony, you didn't hear it. So if you can pick up this book and read through and go, wow, I feel like I'm there. This is kind of fun. That was the goal with the book.
Do you find, like, have you always had this confidence in front of people, in front of your stories? Or like, has there ever been a point in your life where you were just like, I don't know if I can do this?
All the time.
All the time?
In martial arts, it'd be going to tournaments and thinking you're doing forms. I'm like, I'm not nearly as good as the other people I just saw were fantastic. And that was in the days of the original Karate Kid movie. So yeah, I was judging myself to different levels and I was not that good. And then with the music, same thing. What's the crowd reaction? How long can you keep that dance floor filled? Are they, chanting one more song at the end of the night? Maybe you did a good job. Maybe they just don't want to leave. Who knows? With the weddings, I've had that imposter syndrome many times where I've been doing a ceremony and I'm looking out the crowd and maybe I see 2 people and they're leaning towards and they're laughing and I'm thinking instantly, oh no, they hate what I'm saying. Did my hair blow straight up because of the wind? Is there like something happening? Or they're like, this is the worst guy ever. Why did they hire this guy? And then you realize maybe they were laughing about, we barely got here because we got cut off and we just made it and we sat down and whew, that was so close.
Yeah.
So you never know. And I've learned, and that's only in the recent 2 years, to not let anything outside influence impact you because it's always my interpretation of their event. I'm thinking, if your mind, we're human, our mind goes, they're hating what I'm doing. This is awful. Wait a minute, did I say the wrong name? Is it Jennifer, not, Jody? What did I do? And then you have to shut that little voice in your head off of, no, be confident in yourself, believe in yourself, keep going.
How do you do that? Because I feel that's probably one of the most difficult situations for most people at some point have had to do something, whether it be giving a speech, whether it be getting up on the stage, or whether it just be presenting to the classroom. Like, how do you get over those nerves, the imposter syndrome? How do you walk through it to get to the point where you show up and do the best work you can?
Another great question. I think you just do it. Everybody makes mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes. It's coming in with the preparation as well. I found that has really helped me. That's why I practice so much with Court and Alex, and then on my own in the living room, reading through what I was supposed to say. And then when I started modifying it, now even still, practicing that story, their love abouts. Maybe they want repeat after me vows that I've done 800 plus times, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to do it. So it's that repetition. It's the hard work that no one wants to do that I definitely don't want to do, but I know if I do it, it gets ingrained like muscle memory of, nope, you know what you're doing.
Yep.
Be confident. Maybe it's something like the bride is like, this is so emotional. She's starting to cry, or the groom is overcome with emotions. It's okay. And just pause, let them have that moment, breathe through it. And sometimes something comes to mind to say, but that's part of the magic, I think, of doing this path of becoming a wedding officiant that most people wouldn't take, that you get to share such real human emotion with people on such a special day. Like, I remember marrying Lisa, and it was awesome day. It was a wonderful day. And the emotions and the happiness, and knowing that, wow, we're here. This relationship has come to this moment. It was something else. Yeah. Pretty much. You just let people be people and hope that, well, you don't mess up too badly.
I love how it always seems to come back to happiness for you, right? Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
So what is happiness to you?
Wow. What is happiness? Honestly, I am a very upbeat, positive person. I've been told that a lot, and I believe it to be true. I don't need much in this life because I have everything that I could possibly want. And when you think of happiness, I've got wonderful family, amazing kids, a lovely wife, a warm home. It's getting to do this brings me happiness. I'll finish a wedding and be driving home and still on cloud nine. And, can't wait to get home and tell Lisa about like this way. She'll be like, "How did it go?" I said, "Oh, it was great. This happened, and I saw Grandma crying," or it just went off smoothly. And that's wedding, of course, but even in general life, I think, upbeat, happy, and positive. I'll drive to work and be like, "What a beautiful sunrise. What a lovely sunset. Look at the birds flying in the trees," or I'll see a cardinal fly through the tree. I saw one just the other day. It's little things like that to me is the simplest things in life can bring you happiness.
I find that showing up without expectations into situations and just letting them be and just letting them exist however they are, and your actual reaction that's where the happiness lies, because it's never external. I find it's always internal for happiness. I've seen two people walk into the same room and one have a terrible time and one have the best time. And I'm like, you both went through the same thing. That somehow one of you walked out super happy, one of you walked out saying, "This sucks, I'm never doing this again," kind of thing, right? And what was the difference? What were you expecting from this to make you get to the point where this sucks? This is not good, right? And like the happiness is subjective to the person, but it's also internalized, right? Because then that way, when they sit there and they find that moment that they find happiness inducing, then they're good, versus showing up and just accepting it for what it is. And then seeing, like you said, the small details, like the cardinal in the tree, the small little things that people don't notice. That's what makes the tapestry up of happiness and kind of, being, well in your life. So, yeah.
That's a mic drop moment, right?
I know, right? Oh man,
excuse me.
I know you're not, because you're not. Are you religious?
I would say I have strong beliefs. I've been in different churches all my life, but I like to say more, of course, as you've heard all before, I'm more spiritual than religious.
Okay. What part does ritual have in your life as a spiritual person? And how does ritual enhance your life?
Great question. Rituals. Well, I have lots of little rituals in my life that I've adopted that I think for me keep me on a good path each and every day. First thing when I wake up in the morning, I'm always reading something in the spiritual realm positive. That's just something I like to do. Then with the rituals, it's funny, one of the little things I do before every single wedding, regardless, is I'm driving to wherever, and I'm got everything ready beside me. I have my usual song playlist. I won't share it with you because you'd be like, "Seriously?" But I'd be like, "Yes."
Can you give me one song now? I got to hear one now.
Paper Rings, Taylor Swift. Yeah, I know. It's like
my kid loves Taylor Swift, so I know that one.
Yeah. And I'm 55 and I love Taylor Swift.
Love it.
Yeah, but I'm driving through to every single wedding, and I always, always, always take the time right before I check everything in. Everything's about to start, and I'll say a little prayer in my head, basically, of God, Gaia, Mother Nature, the universe, the unseen force, come into my heart, fill me with love, and guide my words, my deeds, my actions, my cadence, my rhythm, the way I look at this couple. Let them feel genuine love coming from me. for them on such a big magical day in their lives today. Just it's something funny I picked up on like my very first wedding. I remember being so nervous and thinking, this isn't about me, it's about them. I just want to do a good job. And that's something that I always do, every single wedding, regardless.
I love that. And the way you went through it real quick is like, it's just like ritualized,
Mm-hmm.
right? The reason I ask is because like you guide a ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've often found that when I'm showing up on set now, I'm having to develop a ritual to show up to the best of my ability, right? And part of my ritual is the night before or the morning before, depending on what time the call time's at, is I try to have absolutely nothing to do with the podcast at all. Like shut down, don't read anything about it, don't look at the guests like lists and go through the stuff, and just be. Just exist. Don't think of anything, don't think of work, don't think of anything except just being in that moment and just existing, right? And that to me, that quiet that happens before, I always call it like the quiet before the storm, right? Is that to me is part of my ritual of getting ready for the podcast. And so I love the fact that you're quieting your mind down with a mantra, right? Because being in martial arts, there's a power to a mantra, and being able to recite it back and forth where it takes your brain and turns it from like active mode to passive mode.
Exactly.
And it's like you're just going to exist in this moment now and react to what's given to you now, not in the future, not in the past, right now.
Yeah. Well, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ritual of the wedding is the start, right? How, and you've seen enough couples now, like what are some good signs of a good couple? I say good as in they're going to, they're going to farewell together.
Simply in their connection. It's such a lovely moment that, yes, you have lots of guests, divvying for your attention. You have so many things you have to do and focus, but the couple that will reach for one another's hands, they look at one another and they're giggling and smiling, and you can feel the connection. Instead of worrying about, I'm up here, I'm really nervous, I don't want to make a mistake, and have you looked at the person standing across from you? Like, look at them.
Yep.
That's the surest sign. And luckily on wedding day, because the ceremony is the kickoff to the day, it sets the tone. That's why I like to do something in a story format. It's very different because it does set the story. It changes the dynamic. It's not something that many people have seen before of like, what just happened in this ceremony? Not in a bad way. It's honestly, the reaction has been quite good. But it definitely sets the tone of an upbeat, positive, loving experience. They've laughed, they've cried at the ceremony. And when the couple are truly connected with that, walking down the aisle, so happy to see one another, holding hands, laughing, joking, it's like, it's going to be a great relationship and a strong connection.
Has it affected you in your relationships?
Absolutely. It's, I appreciate every day how lucky I am to have someone who loves me, who is so wonderful in my life. It's, I keep thinking, man, win the lottery? No, I already did. And her name is Lisa.
I love that. What is something you've learned after like being with hundreds of loving couples? What is something that you're one of your key takeaways in life?
Great question. I think it's honestly just laughing and enjoying the time with this person who has chosen you and you've chosen them, that appreciate it. It's one of the, we never know how much time we have, and we never know how much time we have with the person we've chosen. I had the amazing honor to marry a couple that were very connected, but he was incredibly sick. And I married them outside with all their friends and family close by. And then a few months later, maybe 7 months later, she called me and said, Craig, and I could tell by her voice, I'm like, oh no, and asked me to do the funeral. And it hits you of like, wow, they were a strong connection. They were so happy together. We never know. So don't take for granted something so wonderful. Like, you got someone who loves you. Trisha's like, Ash, I can't wait to hear about your day. It's like, yes, absolutely. It brings you happiness chatting with her and sharing that time with her. That's the best things in life, my friend.
I love that. Living in the current, like right now, and enjoying that moment is I mean, I said it in the the interview just before. I was like, slow is the new rich.
Mm.
And that, take that moment. Like, be greedy with that moment and enjoy that moment with them, because you don't know. Nothing's for certain in this world. And the fact is that if you're with someone who cares for you, take the moment to enjoy. And yeah, I love that. I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your words of wonderful. Do you have anything that you would like to share with our guests, like with our audience, before we sign off? And
thank you, Ash, for taking the time, speaking with me, asking such wonderful questions, and sharing your story. I love it. A cat proposal. I'll never forget that. Yeah. For any of your guests, honestly, and it's nothing wedding related. It's like we're just talking about. Focus on that little bit of happiness is within, not without. So whatever it is with your family, your partner, never forget how lucky you are to have that in your life. And carry that with you. Let that be your light. Let that be the love and the light that's inside you. Let it shine through. It's everyone's afraid, or I think they're afraid. I know I was definitely afraid to let the real me shine through. And it's easy to do so because people will notice. They'll look at you a little bit differently. And enjoy those moments, especially if you're lucky enough to be married or have someone interested that wants to marry you, or you're dating for a long time. It's that love is the answer. I think that was a song in the 70s perhaps, but love is the answer. Because like the Beatles said, all you need is love.